Let's see how this different microphone works now that I've got it set up. A nice condenser mic. Thursday, March the 9th, 2023. I listened to an episode of Sense of Shelf, which was from September the 28th, 2022. And the standout bit of this that made me really laugh, in fact, first of all, I'll mention that he had a new bit that started recently at that point in the series, where he looked at books that he was looking forward to coming out, or book news. He mentioned the books Beartown and Stay True. The main subject of the show this time was a review of the book Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. And during this, John did a great take on the trick that Bill pulls in Bill Reads Bad Reviews, where he talks to his, air quotes, staff in the background about the script and other things. For his show, Bill Reads Bad Reviews, as I said. So, and this time, John was doing the same about them keep using the joke of, so one reason, one of them is, where he was saying, well, so the episode that he was doing was written the day before yesterday, and he's recording it late night, so it's going to go out the next day. So that would mean that when it was written, it'll go out the day. It won't go out tomorrow. It will go out tomorrow, and there's the joke, you see. So he did that, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, and then he went back and he's like, "Hey, is that the best you can do? I'm fed up with you guys. I'm going to send you back to Bill." And I'm not sure whether that will work, what I've just done, but it'd be good if it does. Yeah, the podcast Everything Everywhere Daily. When I look at that title now, I think I've not seen the film. Actually, I need to blooming watch it. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. That's just won the Oscars. Congratulations. Actually, I'm saying that now, but that's me forward in time recording this later than the date that I'm talking about, because the Oscars have happened since then, and there's been a lot of awards for that film. Congratulations to Michelle Yeoh. And to, why can't I remember the lad? Oh, no. I mean, he's not a lad, is he? Grown-up boy. But, yeah, to all those people for that film. What is it? Create Magic. More episodes about, Todd's artwork, what he's doing. Vintage Rock Pod. Yeah. They guest Mac B and Action Jackson from the Ugly American in London podcast were discussing the reunion of Jimmy Page and Robert Plant in Orlando in 1995, which they both went to that gig. Phil started talking about arcade games on Deleted Saves, and he spoke about the film Final Flight, Final Fight. That's it, which was supposed to have been a follow-up to Street Fighter 89, but they had to change it to something else because the follow-up to that was actually being made by another team that worked at Capcom at the same time. March the 7th was World Cereal Day, which reminds me of that great joke, in CSI. Well, it's almost like a dad joke, isn't it? Which was, where they'd gone into this house or something, and people were dead at the breakfast table, and Grissom in CSI said, "I think we've got a serial killer." That still makes me giggle slightly. Lovely poem in The Slowdown, which was read by Major Jackson the poet, and the poem was What's Being Caged, written by Jamaica Baldwin. Phase Zero, Brandon, Aaron and Jenna. What were they talking about? Yeah, that's actually something for me. So Daredevil Born Again is a series that's coming at some point, no date given yet, to Disney Plus, which is Marvel, and it's a Marvel series. But Daredevil Born Again that we're talking about, they've already got a couple of people from the Netflix series Daredevil, Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio. But they're also bringing back, and they've announced that John Bernthal is coming back to play the Punisher, and he was in the Netflix series as Punisher as well in all those joined universe things. But they did say that Deborah Ann Woll. Oh no, I've just noticed in my notes that that's written wrong on my blog. Spell checker, thanks. Deborah Ann Woll and Eldon Ensign haven't been announced as returning from the roles that they played, which surprises me because they were great in that show, and they're important roles, especially Eldon Ensign, who played Foggy. Foggy was an important part of that. Is an important part of the Daredevil story in the comics as well. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 has been announced as the longest Guardians film. Great, at least Marvel are doing something, because when they've cut all these recent films, like the Thor film and the Doctor Strange film, that gave me that irritated me, because I really thought that both of those films needed those extra bits to give them a bit more substance. Mark Ruffalo was asked in an interview about Iron Man. Funnily enough, because Mark Ruffalo plays the Hulk, but whatever. Nashville trivia answer was wrong. Yeah, somebody pointed out that an answer in a trivia quiz at Nashville about Marvel was completely wrong. Martin, you need to go to something else that's not about Phase Zero. Although I love that show. What is it? Watched. Listen to the last episode of the On the Night Train podcast, audio drama, which was a great end. But superb show. I love that. What have we got next? Friday, March the 10th, 2023. You can tell I'm doing this off the cuff, can't you? So, the biggest thing probably for Friday, the biggest takeaway is the episode of Investigates, the show where Gates McFadden chats with all sorts of people. This time it was the most recent episode, actually, because it just jumped out at me, because I'm a fan of Kate Mulgrew, the actress. I think she's a great actress. I love the way that she played Janeway, even though Voyager, could be irritating at times as a series. But she's written 2 autobiographies. And one of her siblings took offence at it, actually. But, the takeaway from this was was her discussing about her mother's, the family's, history with her own mother's Alzheimer's, and what she said about that, and that was really, considering, without going too much what's going on in my life at the moment, that really jumped out at me. It was quite poignant, really. Dear me, don't get teary, Marv. Don't get sad. Well, don't get teary anyway. I'm British. Vintage rock pub. Oh yeah. Vintage rock pod was one of those on this day, which is supposedly the day that the Small Faces split up. After Steve Marriott left. Steve Marriott was a guitarist and lead singer. So the remaining members got, basically Ronnie Wood and Rod Stewart joined, and they became the Faces as opposed to the Small Faces. And Paul just found out from Kenny Jones, the drummer, what the transition was like from one to the other. Where else are we going for standouts? What we got? Daily Dad Jokes, This Goose is Cut, Create Magic, Todd again with his great artwork, Daily Facts, Daily Shower Thoughts, Composer's Date Book, Dangerous Amusements, Stu spoke with the comedian, author and presenter Mark Lamar. I remember Mark from The Word and other things back in the day. And they were going through Mark's very interesting choices about Elvis Costello songs. And a couple that I actually love as well. Daily Dad Jokes, Merriam-Webster's Word of the Day, Audio Poem of the Day. What was that? The Flesh of John Brown's Flesh. Oh, interesting title. Written by Jeffrey Brock. 1 minute movie review. Yeah, that was a one-off where it was basically the presenter Mikey getting phone calls from Ghostface and they're just having discussions, and everything. Yeah. Great. Very interesting. All Create Magic, Daily Facts, The Slowdown. The poem was Panama Hat by David Lehman. Great poem. And I've got a trilby somewhere and I wear a beanie all the time and I've got caps and headwear and everything near it when you've got lack of hair like I've got. Introducing Good Sport on TEDx Shorts. Yeah, that was just an introduction to a new show that was at that time starting. Daily Shower Thoughts and Soda Jerker on songwriting. Saw Brian Sy chatting with Tim Burgess of the band The Charlatans. No notes taken of that because I was on my way back home from work when I was listening to that. So, Saturday, March 11th, 2023. Here we go. We got Bridgewater, Season 2, Episode 10. Yokai Trapped Inside. Oh yeah, Yokai. The episode title, Yokai. Jeremy and Vipin are fighting to get out of the in-between, as it's called. And there's obviously some monster in there and that sort of thing. Yeah. Bill reads bad reviews. Saw Bill looking at the 2015 film, Creed. Because the sequel Creed 3 has just recently come out. Creed starring Michael B. Jordan and Sylvester Stallone, directed by Ryan Coogler. Yep. But the thing with this is that, I saw that Bill was mentioning that he was going to be talking about this film, and I did a response on Twitter, to say that I'd heard that Sylvester Stallone isn't in Creed 3 playing Rocky, who is Creed's trainer in the other two films, and the character's not even mentioned, and I just thought that was a bit weird, but it's a Creed film, I suppose. Comic Book Nation, Matt and Janelle were joined by Connor Casey and by Charlie Ridgely, because Kofi's away. Charlie Ridgely had his recently born child there with him, and it was frequently making noises and whatever in the background. Congratulations, Charlie. They spoke about the announcement of the Punisher being in Daredevil Born Again, played by John Bernthal. Connor stops a grenade about no, that's not what no. Do you know what? I say things into Siri to make it easier while I'm driving to take notes about shows, but that's wrong. Connor set off a grenade about his opinion of the Netflix series. And I pointed out, because Matt said something about, about cooking, on the Marvel Universe, and then I've put in my notes, perhaps they'll have a special appearance from Jon Favreau then, doing some cooking on an episode, a Marvel cookery show maybe. Spoke about other things as well, comics, Mandalorian, yeah. I'll forget all that by the time I get to that episode of Mandalorian. I'm still on season 2, for God's sake. Sanjita carries on her story Janessa, or started it at that point. Yep. Audio poem of the day was Hangul Abbasidarian by Franny Choi. This week in Marvel, Ryan and Lorraine talking about what's going on in the Marvel Universe. Ryan is hosting an event called 60, that's called X-Men Uncanny Event, which is, basically 60 years of the X-Men this year. Marvel Snap, which is a game. They talked about that. Spoke about that. Blah, 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 blah. Yep. And then they also spoke about other things, like Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. The cartoon series got some award nominations, toys, merchandise. Had a great interview with the special effects team from Marvel Studios' Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. That's been nominated for 5 Oscars. I don't know actually now whether it's won any or not. I'm not really sure. Tabletop Genesis. Mike and Tom were joined by the Simon Godfrey, who used to be a host of this show a couple of years ago, who come back with their friend Catherine Stratton, and they were discussing the Mike Rutherford solo album, Acting Very Strange, the only album that actually features Mike singing lead vocals. The lesson that Tom had in preparation for this episode. What? Hey? Do you know what? If I had time to correct these notes that I take, on Siri, for my blog, it'd be a damn sight better, but I haven't got the time for that. It was Tom. It was his first listen to the album. It's an album where, I've admitted and said that in this blog actually that it'd been a long time since I'd listened to it, and I think my opinion was coloured by other people's opinions, where they're saying, "Oh, it's a bad album because of Mike's voice." I don't think it's that bad. It's decent. It does what it needs to do. There's some bit, there's a lot of bits where you think, oh, if that was somebody else, but I think because I'd heard that it was rush recorded and put together in a rush in a way. I think if he'd had the time, and because there's some bits, there's a song that's not on the album that was recorded for the Against All Odds soundtrack called "Making a Big Mistake," and that's got a great vocal by Mike on it, and that's a Mike Rutherford solo song, and that's actually great. But yeah, they were talking about that, and I think it's important to listen to, and there's some really good renditions of these songs that the Mike and the Mechanics group ended up doing live on their tours. Blood on the Tracks, next bit about that, which is about John Lennon and Richard Nixon and their problems. Peggy Mount, Calamity Hour, they were looking at the Blackout and Velvet were joined by Ozzy Bognovs to look at an episode of Ragdolliana from Yorkshire TV, kids show. Ragdolliana Gathers Primroses, that's the title. And of course, they come out with great, reactions to it, like, what is it, the White Cat. There's a white cat character in there that keeps having strange looks or whatever to different things, talking to inanimate objects, a cake tin, a parrot that had stuff in it, walking farmhouse kitchen, right, cadaver ducks, glove puppets. Yeah, they had this thing where so it goes from like a glove puppet of Ragdolliana to a person in a costume. What else we got? Greek mythology. Yeah, Greek magic. Slow down. Yeah, poem Don't Touch by Sarah Carson. Okay, and now we go to Sunday, March the 12th, 2023. Stu World Order. Stu was joined by Joey and Mark Ellis from the So Wizard podcast to look at the Vin Diesel film Bloodshot, which is supposed to be a really bad film, and was one of the ones that I'd chosen that I didn't end up chatting about on the Stu show. I ended up talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, Turtles in Time, with him. I say ironically a classic. Talk More Talk, Tom, Kit, Ken and Joe had a fascinating discussion about songs that were unreleased or difficult to get hold of by John Lennon. So let's scratch that. There are some unreleased songs, but some that have been released, and there's some alternative recordings and demo recordings of songs. And it brought to mind, because I've mentioned in my blog that I wondered why the Beatles used the demo recording of John doing the song Real Love that they did, when there were better recordings of it that were clearer. And then the question of whether John and Ringo could add instrumentation to some of John's songs now, if they needed to, without George's involvement. I mean, I said neither George or Ringo were on Ballad of John and Yoko. That's all John and Paul doing the instrumentation. When they was fab, Ed and John, they were discussing songs that George Harrison has guested on for other people. Famously, George ended up not playing guitar on, I think it was the song Wanderlust that Paul wanted George to do guitar on Tug of War, and George didn't, because he felt that it didn't need it. He's probably right, actually. It's just a shame there wasn't, another song on there that George could have played on. And then there's the question of whether the slide guitar solo on I Won't Back Down by Tom Petty was by George or by Tom Petty's bandmate Mike Campbell, because both of them feature there on guitars. Review it yourself. Back to Bill being on the show as a guest. Bill from Bill Reads Back Reviews guesting again, and looked at the Tommy Lee Jones starring film Volcano. Leave it there for now. And go to Monday, March the 13th. Right. Pause. That's me fetching my notes because I haven't actually put out the blog yet for the Monday. Jerry Anderson podcast. Fab Fact was about, a maze that was made out of maize, the cereal maize. And they made was it a Thunderbird spaceship or some other spaceship from a Jerry Anderson show out of that into a maze, like I said. So it was of the shape of that. Jamie spoke with the Canon supervisor for 20th Century Studios, Andrew Isigaska. And Chris, they all watched the episode Crater 101 from Captain Scarlet. Oh, and Richard James did a fantastic impression of Bruce Forsyth. Icarus Complex, part one of a two-parter that came out that day. I didn't get to listen to part two, but part one I did. And, something about, leaving Bristol. I'm not going to tell too much about the story, but it does feature me, voice acting, and I say acting in, as a talent agent called Stanley, which was both exciting and also flipping scary to listen to as well, because I was listening and thinking, well, you can pick on things, I mean, I listen to old songs that I've recorded and I'll listen and I'll think, I couldn't, I probably would have changed that bass line there or done this here or whatever, but you're always picky about things that you do. That's the only thing I've taken. Where have my notes gone from there? There are other notes, but other shows I listen to, but I can't find the notes to. So what we will say is we'll leave that there, because it's bloody long enough already as it is. And I'll let you guys get on with the rest of your day, and thanks for listening. And if anyone wants to tell me if this sounds better for the new microphone setup, so it's not a new microphone, it's a microphone I've had for years, but I've decided to try and set it up and see what it sounds like as opposed to the SM58, because I thought the SM58 was making me sound a bit deep, and I was hoping that this one might make me sound a bit more friendly and more like my real voice. Anyway, thanks for listening. Take care.